Hello and welcome. We are back. It's All for United. The dreaded international break is finally over and we can get back to some real football, which of course will be taking place tomorrow. And frankly, I can't wait to have it back. And speaking of having it back, we have got two rather fantastic human beings here with us to run through the joys of tomorrow night's game against Brentford. So, without further ado, let's introduce them. Right underneath us there, we have the Great Wall of China himself, Mr. Andrew Wall. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good. Yeah, so looking forward to the game tomorrow and being at the GTEC Stadium, as it's called. So yeah, glad that the international break's over and get back to some football at last.
Absolutely that. And of course, not much. Wow. I mean, this is still ahead, right? And this is a full on. This is probably as long as your quiff, sir.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you
I
at
was
this
going to say,
point,
I've just had mine cut today as well.
Absolutely outrageous. But there we go. That's what happens when you let him loose in the comments. That was Andrew anyway. Let's move over to my right-hand man on the left-hand side, Mr. Dan Field. How the devil are you, sir? Nice to have you back.
I'm good. I'm a bit disappointed there though, because you remember that conversation we had backstage the other week when I said we need to get Connor on because my hair was really long.
Yes.
I was going to try and quiff match him. I had to go and get it cut because it started to look homeless. So
outrageous.
Quiff matching's gone. Yeah, I'm good. I'm so glad the international break's over there. Boring, isn't it?
Like I was talking to a friend of mine tonight, or this afternoon rather, went for lunch. We were just saying he said, did you watch the England game? I didn't. It's a friendly, I don't care. And it's bizarre. I mean, I don't really care about England when they're in the tournaments. You know, I watch them because I feel like I should and I want them to do well. Of course I do. But I mean, did you guys feel that as well? Do you just sort of, it's something to do, really, isn't it? When it comes to the summer, it's just like otherwise there'll be no football at all for ages. Is that kind of way you feel?
Background football for me. When they're friendlies, it's just background football. It's just on in it, so I'll watch it. It's like the games that have been on today, I'll sit and watch it. It's just because it's football. But even when it's the competitions, I think it's just one of them where 90% of the England teams that are picked aren't what people want to see anyway. These players left at home that people want to see on the pitch, and these people on the pitch that should have been left at home, and that's 90% of my problem with internationals. But I still hope they do well. It's just I just don't like friendlies. I think friendlies are absolutely pointless.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm following the tournament football, but international breaks when it's during the season, I'm just like, I can't wait for them to be over and you can get back to the Premier League football. So, but yeah, it's one of those. Just something you have to go through each season. Like 3 or 4 international breaks. So, yeah.
Throwing back flags out. I don't know what. I think you might have had a drink here tonight. I'm not sure.
Was that a reference to Formula 1? I don't know.
Listen, it's Good Friday. If the boss can't have a few drinks, then why can't he? Right. Well, onwards. Anyway, who cares about the internationals? They're all over. Thank the Lord for that. Tomorrow, Brentford coming up. You right there, Dan? Some.
I can hear fireworks.
I mean, it's Ramadan, isn't it? So there's every chance.
There you go. Yeah, that's it. That makes sense.
All that jazz.
That's the Scotland flag. It looks like a black flag.
I mean, that was not the Scotland flag. It's not translated, mate, through to StreamYard. It's not disrespect, I'll put it out there again. That is a black flag. The only thing that's missing there is the skull and crossbones, mate. That's all that's missing. Tulumba. Look forward to seeing your joyful comments today. Lovely to have you back in the chat. Yeah, football's back. Tomorrow we have the mighty Brentford, a side that have not beaten us in the last 10 games that we played in them, apart from that horrible result last season where we were battered 4-0 and all the goals came in the first 35 minutes. We'll do what we usually do. what's your initial thoughts on this game against Brentford? How are you looking? Not the result necessarily, not even where you think we might end up with it, just more your general thoughts and feelings going into the game. Andrew, we'll kick off with you.
So we've got to utilise the momentum from 2 weeks ago. That dramatic FA Cup one against Liverpool. As we say, we're going into the business end of the season now, so we've got the last, say, 6 weeks. Try and get that 4th place, because I just think, looking at the fixtures early today for Villa as well, I was thinking they've got some tough fixtures coming up. I know the same 5th place looks like it could be Champions League, but I just think if Villa don't pick up those wins that they've got, then we could just be sneaking up just behind them. Obviously, we've got to get past Tottenham first, but if we can sneak into that 4th place, say that more or less shows the Champions League spot. So I'm optimistic, but as I say, we've got to start with a win tomorrow. So we've got to. Brentford are not going to make it easier for us. So we're getting more and more players coming back, as Ten Hag was saying in the press conference earlier. So it's just never know with Brentford at the moment. This season they've been a bit up and down. Okay, they haven't had Ivan Toney for about half the season, but now he's back. He's the one we're going to be watching out for tomorrow. But I think we can go there and get a result and do better than we did last season, because last season I remember I could have had a ticket for the game, and I thought, I was like, didn't go, and I thought, I'm glad I didn't, because I didn't want to be standing there watching us getting battered 4-0. So hopefully it's the reverse tomorrow. We're battering them 4-0.
It would, yeah, for sure. It's very, very interesting. Oh, hello. I remember that match well. By half time, I'd been onto the DVLA to replace my Man United number plate back to its original. There you go. It was one of those days, really, wasn't it? Dan, how do you feel about it? Because when we're putting these shows together and we're thinking about what it is we're going to describe them as, you kind of want to call them all big games, but it doesn't have the traditional feeling of a big game insofar as it just doesn't feel like there's as much riding on at the moment, because of the fact that it's just more hope than belief, I think, at the moment, that we could make it into the top 4. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm going to start calling myself Captain Flip Flop, because I'm flip flopping again. I said the other week that you'd take the FA Cup over finishing 4th, etc. And I still think that, but I think the game is actually quite big. You look at Brentford's form. I don't think they've won since February. They lost to Burnley last time out. They're not in fantastic form at all. They've only on 26 points. They're getting dragged towards the relegation zone. Even with Toney back in the team, they're not picking up points. They're getting goals still, but they're not picking up points. We've got a chance to put some pressure on Villa and Spurs again. And this is what United are doing to us this season. You sort of write the season off. 2 weeks later, it's back on a little bit more, and then we lose a game, and then you're like, oh, it's gone again. But I would say this is quite big. We're coming off a rest with probably our best player. He's had a couple of weeks, a week or so off, so that's good. The injuries seem to be easing a little bit. I've not seen too much about Martinez. I heard that he's might be a little bit short for tomorrow, same as Maguire, but they're starting to ease up. There's no reason why we shouldn't be beating Brentford tomorrow and putting some more pressure on Villa and Spurs. So I'm a little bit excited for it, but at the same time, anxious would be the word, because I'll be flip-flopping again come Sunday.
I mean, that's it though, isn't it, Andrew? I mean, you say it, there's 6 points between us and Spurs in 5th, and then 9 points between us and Villa in 4th. It feels like a lot. It feels like a lot with 10 games to go, pretty much. Do you think we can do that? I mean, it feels a bit early to be having that conversation, but do you feel like there is a chance that because Villa, like I say, 10 games to go, that means Villa have got to not gain any points for 3 games or draw a heck of a lot of them. Whereas for Spurs, they're probably easier to catch. They're certainly closer, but are you still harping hopes of the top 4, or is this now just a case of just trying to finish the season strongly and taking the momentum that we have in the league and seeing where it gets us, but more importantly, using that in the FA Cup in the hope that we come home with some silverware?
Well, I'm hoping we'll come home with some silverware with the FA Cup, but I'm always like to remain optimistic, in terms of the league. I just think, the positives surrounding, Liverpool game we won. Before that, the league game against Everton, even though it wasn't a game to write home about. I mean, Ten Hag still got, a monumental task, trying to claw 6 points back from Spurs and 9 from Everton, and get that Champions League qualification secured. But obviously, we haven't been aided by the injuries we had, but also other factors as well. And okay, some of those players are now starting to come back, which we're going to need in the next few weeks as well. So, as I say, with looking at Villa's fixtures earlier in the 10 games, I think they're still going to play Man City, Liverpool, I think Arsenal as well. So I think even Chelsea they've got as well. And I'm just like, there's some games they could slip up in, and I'm just thinking, that fourth place is still mathematically still doable. And I just think, if we just, take the momentum we came from 2 weeks ago, I think we can hit a good run of form towards the end of the season. Then I think, we can achieve that fourth place. And even if fifth does end up being guaranteed Champions League, I just think we want to finish high as possible. So it'd be nice to get ahead of Spurs and Villa and finish in the top four. But I just think Brentford are not going to make it easier for us tomorrow. As I said, they've got their own concerns to worry about as well. So they're only 5 points clear of the Forest, who got deducted the 4 points as well. But, so Brentford are wanting to get many points on the boards themselves. So, yeah, I'm just thinking, I think we can do well into the end of the season. But the way United have been this season, you just never know which one you're going to get from United.
Very true, very true. It's much like a revel in that respect. It's interesting. It is. I mean, Connor's not having any of it. He's like, more chance of me coming on with Barry's hair than United top four. And to be fair, if you carry on, mate, it might well end up like that. Rip a bit of it out. But Dave mentioned about Martinez potentially being back, and that is something that we're going to get to. But Dan, you mentioned their form at the moment, Brentford. They've been tight games, the ones they've played. Obviously, you said they had the 2-1 loss to Burnley. They lost to Arsenal, but only 2-1. Again, and Arsenal, unquestionably one of the better sides in the Premier League this season. They drew 2-2 with Chelsea, which is their only game in the last 6 that they've got any points out of. Lost 4-2 to West Ham. Lost 1-0 to City. Again, these are big teams. It's tight. You've got Dave saying we're going to go out there and tank them 3-1, but aside from West Ham, then Liverpool, of course, winning 4-1, it's rare that they seem to get absolutely battered. So they did beat Wolves the week before that, having won 2-0 against them. But the thing that I find interesting is that Tolumba saying, obviously, when has our opposition's form ever mattered? I think what's interesting for me is when you look at it, they've played 29 games, we've played 28. They've won 7. We've won twice as many games as them on 15. But they've lost 17 of their games and we've lost 11. And I think to me, that's the bit that worries me, is how close we are in terms of games lost, because that kind of tells the story of our season, really. We've not even been earning draws in those situations. You think of that, if those 6 games had all been draws, we would have been in a much better position. But like I say, 6 games worse off than, 6 games better off than them with the losses. What do you make of our form compared to their form? And do you think, as Dave says, that it's going to be a big scoreline, or do you think it's going to be tight even if we do end up beating them?
The thing for me with them, they seem to be conceding a lot of goals. I think they've conceded 3 or more in something like 6 of the last 10. They've just seem to give up a lot of chances at the minute, and that sort of football suits us better than teams just sitting in and hoping for going for the counter attack. We seem to play better against that at the minute. So I just think their style of play will probably suit us better than other teams at the moment. Our form, I'm not really worried about the lack of draws. It just seems to go one way or the other. But I can remember Liverpool missing out on a title because they drew too many games. Sometimes it is just better to you either win or you lose, and you leave it at that. hope we see what we saw in the FA Cup. Ultimately, every game in the Premier League now is like a final of some kind, because if we drop any more points before now and the end of the season, it's again flip-flopping. It's probably going to be done with. You don't know for certain what's going to happen, but if we're 80 minutes deep and we're 1-0 down, I hope we see the same changes that we saw in the FA Cup, which was madness. When you go back and watch it, some of the changes were absolutely mad. But I can remember when Fergie used to do this back in the day. He'd chuck on 3 kids, we'd have a centre-back left on the pitch, and you just wouldn't care, because it was like the game was a final. And so ultimately, the form, we sort of have to go in with the expectation that form doesn't matter at the minute. We need to just try and put out cup final performance, get a win by any means necessary, and see if Villa do drop points. The problem is, I think we've got Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea. I think we've got quite a few of the big teams as well. I think they've got more than we have, but there's games where you can see us dropping points too. I think we've got Arsenal, second to last game of the season as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's games in there equally. You can see where we might drop points too. I think what it might come down to is who can surprise the Cities, the Arsenals, and maybe pick up a few points there out of us, Villa and Spurs, to get that place. I hope we see the changes, the same sort of changes against Brentford. If it's not going right, just throw caution to the wind. I would prefer to lose than draw 0-0, or do you know what I mean? I'd prefer to lose 2-0 than draw. Or if it's 1-0, I would prefer us to go and lose by 3 if we're trying to win the game than just watch it fade out again. Because we've done that quite a few times this season, where he's played it a bit too safe with his substitutions, or he's left players on a little bit too long, where Eriksen were gassing, Rashford were gassing, and he just doesn't take them off because he's worried, or they're not going to follow the system plan, or they're not going to do this, not going to do that. Just chuck these players on. Give them a chance between now and the end of the season. Just concentrate on the FA Cup. I want to win the FA Cup.
Actually got you reset. You would rather lose the game than draw 0-0.
So if we're losing, sorry, if it's 0-0, I would prefer that he makes these changes and it's an end-to-end for 10 minutes. If we lose 1-0, so be it. Draws are not going to do us any good in a push for a 4-4 fifth place from now to the end of the season. If we go and draw against Brentford tomorrow, it's pretty much done, because Villa won't draw against Brentford at home. They'll beat them. So
you say this is what we were saying. We've said this every week. After every game we've played, said that's it, top four's gone.
Yeah.
And now you're back here going, well, you never know, because they could lose. And this is the thing with it not being mathematically impossible. That I get where you're coming from. Yes, we'd rather go out there and try and win the game.
Yeah.
And go for it. So yes, that I get that. That's a bit more sensible. Okay, I'm with that. Andrew, this young man's just said that form doesn't really count for anything, because we're looking back at the Liverpool game, and obviously they were a side in better form than us, but we still managed to spank them 4-3 and send them back to Liverpool with their tails between their liver bird legs. But that was the FA Cup, and it was a match against Liverpool, our fiercest, most archiest historical rivals of all time. Slightly different to Brentford away, isn't it? In the hope that you finish potentially 4th in the league. Do you think the players can have the same sort of attitude, or even the manager, Ten Hag, to have the attitude that Dan's on about there, of if it's 0-0, making some changes like that in the hope you go out there and win it 1-0? Do you think that is the sort of thing that Ten Hag would do? Because I've got to be honest, I'm not convinced he would.
I think after the Liverpool game, he might just be... Dan's writing like 80th minute tomorrow, and we're watching it still 0-0. I don't think even Brentford might think, well, we've got a chance to throw the dice as well, so it might just open the game a little bit more. And I think in Brentford's case as well, their defence has not been that great this season, so there's a chance that our attacking line has got plenty of opportunities to get on the score sheet. So I'm hoping we'd have scored before the 80th minute, because you're just going to get more and more nerve-wracking in the game for both sides as well. So there'll be the fear of that one team makes that mistake and then ends up losing it 1-0. But hopefully we're the ones scoring the goal. But I just think with Brentford as well, so they have not had much of a good run of late as well, and they just seem to be like a total shadow of their former selves as well. You know, they've fallen to like 17 defeats this season, so only Burnley and Sheffield United have had more defeats this season. So their back line's just ravaged. I mean, Reguilon's not playing tomorrow because of the red card against Burnley, so in some ways I'm glad he's not playing against us, because he knows how we play and everything. So, but
you just know he would have scored or got an assist as well. You just know it.
So in some ways it's just helped us out a little bit. So, but yeah, and say Brentford could be like the Arsenal game, could lament that game as well, because of Kai Havertz staying on the field before he should have been sent off, but you know, he ended up scoring the winning goal. So yeah, Brentford. The only thing Brentford, the stat I looked at earlier, saying they've registered a goal in 26 of their last 27 home games. So, and the way our defence has been this season, you think, yeah, they could probably maybe score one past us, but hopefully we're scoring more than they are. But yeah, it's a tricky one with Brentford, and I'm just thinking Ivan Toney's going to be the key man for me. And I mean, scored again for England on the other night, so I'm just thinking, it's almost like stop service getting towards him. I know what he's going to try and do, bully our defence, and just like we can't let that happen. So yeah, it's going to be key battles all over the pitch tomorrow. So hopefully we're the ones coming out on top of everything.
Can we just confirm, Andrew, what you're drinking today?
It's just it's not vodka. Definitely
I've got to be honest, the way in which you stalled over answering that is not filling me full of confidence.
It's definitely not water, then, is it?
Yeah, it's water.
It took a long time to come up with the words water.
Very alcoholic water by the sounds of it. Okay, well, if you say so, who am I to disagree? Speaking of disagreeing, Dan, Andrew brings up Ivan Toney, which you would imagine would be one of the big names. But the big stat for him going into this game, and I know you're a bit of a stat man, is that he's not actually scored in his last 5 games. And in the previous five games to that, he'd scored 4 in 5. With that news and with that statistic, does that mean that you are less concerned about Ivan Toney, or do you think he will still pose a danger, even though he appears to be firing blanks at the moment?
I would still crop him within the first 5 minutes, and hopefully he hobbles off. He's just such a good player. To everything he does, he's really important with them. He's strength up top. He keeps the ball well. He's just such a good player, to be honest. So I'd be really, really worried. I also worry about, I think it's Jensen in midfield. He ticks them over quite well as well. I feel like if we can stop Toney, we can stop Brentford a little bit. I know he hasn't scored in 5, but he's very much one of them players that if they get a goal, they fly high, and that's why he does 4 in 5 and then don't score for a couple, and then he'll do 4 in 5 again. He's a massive worry for me, and we need to be really careful. But Brentford are a really good team. They probably haven't had the rub of the green in some of these games where they've not picked up the points, like Andy mentioned, with the Havertz sending off. It definitely should have been sending off. I can't remember the last time I watched a Premier League game that we played and thought, oh, that was quite easy. It was probably Everton, the 3-0 against Everton, because Garnacho scored after a minute. And the rest of them have all been tight affairs, close games. But I think that goes for most Premier League games. Most weekends, most of the games are quite close. It's not... I wouldn't have put Burnley to beat them last week. Burnley have been struggling. But even when Burnley have been getting beat, they're probably the team that's suffered the most, to be fair, Burnley. But it's just such a close competitive league at the minute. We need to be on top of our game.
You say that 12 out of the 15 games that we've won this season were by, as you say, a single goal margin. So is that likely to be the case this weekend?
I think it's going to be. I don't know. I won't do my score prediction yet, but I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but it's going to be close.
Lovely. We love an 8-7. It's great stuff.
I was just going to say, just to add on that, I'm just thinking the Premier League game we were looked most comfortable was West Ham at home, where we won 3-0. Just like, looked like we were at it. Okay, the game against Everton 2-0, but that was 2 penalties. And I'm just thinking there wasn't much else we were going to get from, didn't look like the goal was going to come from open play. So, but just on Brentford, I'm just thinking, yes, Tony going to be a key figure, but I'm just thinking, Thomas Frank we'll be looking for him to, carry the load. There's Johan Wisser as well, maybe an option, but Brentford have lost 3 of their last 4 Premier League games in which he scored as well and drawing the others. So also you've got Brian Mbuemo as well. He's made an encouraging return. So you've got Neil Maupay as well. He's waiting for his chance as well. So there are a few other attacking options, but Thomas Frank is going to be relying on Tony to, carry Brentford forward. So, not just him we're going to worry about. It's just the other attacking line as well.
Yeah, for sure. Dan, going to go to a starred comment. You starred this one. Any particular reason?
Yeah, because he's spot on in what he's saying, and I understand the predicament that Ten Hag's in terms of if he goes for a win and we lose, flip flop here and the internet's going to go absolutely mental that we've lost the game.
Will you be 10 then?
That's what I mean. So, but honestly, I would much prefer to see us, just because of the situation that the league's in at the minute. I'd give him props for going like he did against Liverpool, because at least he's giving it a go. If it don't work, it don't work. But we've got to do that. We can't just let these games sort of peter out into draws and hope that the other teams drop points. We've got to start. If we can just go on a run of like 3 or 4 games, getting max points, and I know we've got some tough fixtures in there. I think Chelsea and Liverpool are in that. Then it really does set a marker down to the teams around us. It's just, and I don't just blame Ten Hag, obviously. It's if the players can set that consistency for the next 3 or 4. But they've got us flip-flopping, haven't they? Like I say, it's back on if we can get some points.
Fair enough. And going to another starred comment, one I put up there. Andrew, what's your thoughts on this? Dab147 saying, hello, and hello to you, sir. If Ten Hag plays Mount and Bruno, we're just heading for more trouble. Do you think that could be a problem if Ten Hag plays Mount and Bruno tomorrow?
I don't expect Mason Mount to be in the starting line because he's only just come back from, how many injuries he's had this season. So he only made a substitute appearance against Liverpool. So I don't expect him to. I suppose if we were comfortably winning the game tomorrow, in the second half towards to the end, maybe he gets 15-20 minutes. But let's say, I'm just thinking if it's still like 0-0, do you throw Mason Mount on? So I don't know, but can they play together? So because Mason Mount, I just think well then technically they can, because against Liverpool, Bruno just went further back and Mason Mount was the one sort of sitting where Bruno was. So it's just like, if we've got to throw everything caution to the wind again, it might just work. So, but I don't know necessarily. And same, Mason Mount hasn't had a run a game, so we don't know what his form can be like for us. So that's what we're going to see. Hopefully he keeps injury free for the rest of the season. We can see, the glimpse of what his form used to be at Chelsea, and brings it to United, because it feels like it's a new signing again, because he had a brief few games at the start of the season and injured, and then trying to make his comeback and then broke down again. So yeah, we'll just have to see how Ten Hag fits all the players into the system.
Since Andrew's got to be right there, hasn't he, Dan? I can't see a world in which Mason Mount starts, but the principle behind the comment from Dav, would you go along with it? Do you think that we've not yet seen a system whereby Mount and Bruno can work together for the common good?
This applies to pretty much every single midfielder, including Kobe Mino, unfortunately. While the team's just a little bit off tactically, the whole back 8, let's say, the midfielders are going to struggle. You just can't play in a system in midfield if it's not all up to scratch. This is why you see Henderson starting for Liverpool when they was winning the Champions League. You might not have been the best player in the world, but you knew how to knit them together, that it meant that it was better as a team. I think any midfield would struggle with us at the minute. We just seem wide open for some reason. So until they start playing together, we won't really know. I always forget about Mount, to be honest with you. It's like we never signed him. I was confused by the fee when we signed him. I was confused by the signing when we signed him. And nothing that's happened this season has really meant that it was a good signing. I think he could come good, and he's a decent player. Fingers crossed he stays fit now to the end of the season, so he can have a little bit of input on the season. Because as like dream stories go, Mount could now come in and win us an FA Cup and get us into the top 4, and then everyone will be forgetting about the fact he was injured for 6 months and he's not really kicked a ball. So I think they could work together, but it's going to take these. You're going to need fresh faces in there if that's going to work. Probably in defence. It's just one of those, because I don't remember any midfield three really being sensational this season. No matter who's been in, it's been a bit of a struggle for us. I don't just think that's on the midfielders. I think it's on everybody. Doesn't it help when you've got left backs at right back and right back at centre back? And do you know what I mean? We just need a team that's settled a bit more.
Well, yes, fair enough points again. And I mean, I'm not sure legally you could do this. I think I get where you were trying to go with it. But yeah.
I seem to remember David James coming on up front for Man City once. That was pretty funny. You could do that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how you'd do that. But to another starred comment, because it's a topic I wanted to get to, with Martinez obviously being potentially available this weekend. That is another one returned. But Harry Maguire, of course, came back from England with a bit of a knock, and he was back early. So that's a bit of a worry. Obviously, we've got Luke Shaw still out, so our defensive woes still continue. Andrew, let's just pretend you've got a little less hair than you've got now, and you've turned in a Dutch accent, obviously, and you're not just swigging water, but Amstel. Possibly. I don't know what he drinks. Might have Amstel, might have something else. Peach Schnapps. God knows. Where am I going with this? I don't know. Who would you pick for defence? Is where I'm going. If you were Eric Ten Hag.
Well, even if we had all our players back, or
I think he means for
Brentford. All of our
Brentford.
players back. It's not bloody fantasy Premier League. Like
just
tomorrow, who would you pick?
I was clarifying the question. I think he's going to be saying back for Liverpool. Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Varane and Dello. That's what I think it'll be. And if Maguire's knock is not too serious, he'll be on the bench. And I've got a feeling Martinez, even though he said maybe a chance, I just think he might just, bring him on the bench, put Martinez on the bench. If we might need him, then throw him on. But I say if we don't need him during the game, then leave him on the bench. But it's all going to be touch and go with Martinez and Maguire. So, but same back four as against Liverpool. That's the one that I'll go for.
Do you think that, Dan? Do you think that sounds like the most feasible?
I can't remember what the back four was against Liverpool. It was Wan-Bissaka.
Oh, yeah. He just said it's the same back four as against Liverpool. Wan-Bissaka, Dalot, Lindelof and Varane. And you just sat there and gone, it was the back four against Liverpool.
It was Bruno and Ericsson by the end of the game. So
yeah. Well, that's what I thought. Maybe
was up top.
I'm trying to remember a bit at the end. He wants Anthony left back. Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, Anthony left back. Maguire centre back.
Right back.
Fernandes centre back. It'd be brilliant. Yeah, I think it'd be the same. I don't see him changing it. Obviously, I think Dalot and Wan-Bissaka will swap sides. I think Wan-Bissaka started there because of Salah, so I do think they'll swap sides. Could you argue that Evans should come in for Lindelof?
Well, Dave has.
Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah, you could argue that Evans could come in for Lindelof. I think Lindelof's been a bit questionable this season. But
Lumber wants to throw him in at left back. No Wan-Bissaka. He wants Lindelof, Cambuala, Varane, and Dalot, which is a hell of a shout.
Yeah, I'd probably do the same as the Liverpool game. Yeah, I think that's what I'd probably go for in the end. I just don't want to risk Martinez at all. If you're having to question his fitness the day before a game, he should be nowhere near that football pitch. Because if he comes on and he breaks down and he misses the semi-final of the FA Cup, I'm going to be furious.
Or was Ten Hag playing mind games and saying that to put Brentford? Like when we played City away, Hoyland and Martinez came on the coach and everybody thought, hang on a minute, are they fit? Or just, I thought it was a little bit of a mind game from Ten Hag to go, I'll try and put you off a little bit, but we all knew in the end they weren't going to play. I'm just thinking, is Martinez potentially, but we'll soon see.
I don't feel like we need to take the risk. If he's a risk, just don't take the risk.
There's bigger games that Martinez can play in, and we will need him for.
The thing is, we're never going to know if it's a risk, are we? It's just the whole thing. They keep their cards very close to their chest. So, is it a risk, as you say, or is it like Andrew says, and Ten Hag's just playing mind games? But there is a part of me that wonders why we're playing mind games with Brentford, who are 15th. These are the sort of mind games you might want to play with teams like Arsenal and City, and
you want to keep the opposition guessing a little bit. I'm just thinking. I just remember, was it a couple of seasons ago where United won there? I think did we win 3-0, 3-1? I remember Thomas Frank being so salty about us,
so bitter. Yeah,
I was like, I think some decision didn't go his way, and he said I think that's what he said. We were the better side. I was like, well, we scored the goal, so we won. So you can carry on being salty. I'd say good manager is Thomas Frank, but I just thought that day he was just like, as you said, a bit bitter about the defeat.
I think you could argue it is, Dave. To be honest with you, it's game time and risk whoever you play, I suppose. Yeah, deep down it is. And he says he's been impressed with our oldest academy graduate this season. I think we all have been. And a little bit more grateful that he has been around. Sergio Reguilon,
by the way. Sorry. Am I wrong? Did I read somewhere that Evans has said that he's retiring at the end of the season, or has somebody gone prematurely on this?
I haven't seen that.
Maybe I've just made it up in my own head.
Possible.
Well, I thought I read somewhere that he'd made the decision that he was going to retire at the end of the season, because it sort of made me second guess. I hope he hasn't, but at the same time, he might go on the coaching staff, which I'd like.
I don't think I've heard anything like that, but
quick Google of that. So just at 4 days ago on the BBC, he's got a few more miles in the tank.
Fantastic. That's what I hear.
Yeah, and I think a couple of weeks ago, Rio Ferdinand saying like Johnny Evans has been one of our best centre backs this season as well. Because I think there with Evans, he probably thought I'll play an odd few games here, but I think he's played 10 plus games more than he thought he would. So, and saying some of those games he's been phenomenal. It's like Luton away as well. I think did he come on or did he start in that game, or he came on? I'm just thinking. He was just like, that experience is what we needed. So the times we have needed, that head on that shoulder, like telling all the other defenders around him, this is positions you need to be in to defend as well. So get in those positions and defend.
You're right. There have been rumours. So it does say reports emerging over the last few days have suggested that one of Ten Hag's most consistent performers could not only leave Old Trafford this summer, but leave professional football for good. But the Northern Ireland boss, Michael O'Neill, said he's heard them. I don't really give any credibility to that. Whatever decision Johnny makes, I know he'll tell me himself directly. So it's not something I'd like to make a comment on, because it seems to be just speculation.
Good.
As well as saying I'll obviously try and talk him out of that scenario. But we'll obviously respect whatever decision Johnny makes. So who knows? Who knows? Sergio Reguilon is suspended for the match, so that's a shame, isn't it? He won't be able to take part against us, so there'll be no revenge goals or anything like that coming from left back. And of course, they've got another couple of players who are out in Ethan Pinnock and Christian Norgard. Brian Mbuemo may be back on the pitch for them. Of course, we've got no Amad Diallo because, taking your shirt off is a crime akin to that of killing your own mother. And so therefore you're not allowed to play football for a game after you've done that. Ridiculous. But despite those things, we've spoken a bit about the defence. You've spoken about not risking people as well. Are we still hoping that we're going to have the likes of Rasmus playing? And what do we think about Anthony? Has Anthony played himself into potentially starting on the right-hand side? Or maybe even the left now that he knows how to use his right foot? I mean, what are we thinking with that, Andrew?
With Rasmus, because obviously just coming back against Liverpool game, you could see, tiredness had crept in the second half, and you just like, at the time I thought, oh, why is he taking him off? And then I thought, well, Ten Hag's just trying to, be cautious with him because he didn't want to, because if he'd played the whole 120 minutes as well, it just like ran himself into the ground for his first game back. So I just think in the end it was the right decision. At the time I was questioning some of Ten Hag's substitutions, but yeah, I was like, right decision in the end. With Anthony, I don't see him starting tomorrow, but scoring that goal against Liverpool just gave him so much confidence as well. And I'm just like, you could just see what it meant to him as well. Just like this criticism he's got this season, trying to justify that transfer fee, and just trying to find his best form again, which it's been up and down this season. So some games is like, why have you been even starting? Just like other players should have been ahead of him. But I just think maybe he can come off the bench tomorrow and score a goal as well. So I just think, as I say, hopefully there's the resurgence in him. So first season he did well. This season it's just been not as good. But as I say, hopefully the last several weeks of the season, we can make a contribution to in the games and to the team itself.
I mean, Dan, would you go along with that? There's been, some interesting statistics that have come out from that. So obviously they have not done so well when it comes to keeping clean sheets. Just one out of their last 14 home league matches so far, with only Sheffield United and Burnley conceding more goals at home than Brentford with 29. But from our point of view, the likes of Rasmus Højlund could become the youngest player to score in 7 consecutive Premier League appearances, surpassing Joe Willock. So what a name that is. I bet you couldn't call that out for a trivia fun fact quiz. But what are you thinking, Dan? What's your front three looking like, and how well do you think we can get on? It sounds like there's an opportunity for goals, but do we have the players that are likely to take them?
Oh, I'm hoping in Højlund's fit. If Højlund's fit, I think it'll be Rashford, Højlund, Garnacho. If he's not fit, I think Tolumbia's probably right. I think it'll be Rashford, Anthony, Garnacho. And Amat will probably kicking himself because if he didn't take his shirt off, I think he might have been given a game. There's definitely going to be an opportunity to score. I'm hoping Rashford's a bit refreshed because I don't think he played many minutes for England. I think it was only about 20 he got in the end. He wasn't a lot, so he should be nice and refreshed in terms of, I know he still had to train and stuff, but a bit more relaxed in certain match time. I hope Anthony comes good. I was having a debate about Anthony. It's not his fault that we've paid far too much money for him. If we would have signed him for the value of what the scouts had placed on him, which was like 25 to 30 million, I don't think the criticism would be as high. But it's not his fault that we've overpaid. There's definitely a player in there. Did he score in 3 of his first 4 games? Scored against Arsenal. Scored against, I can't remember the other one. It's quite an important goal as well. Who was it? Barcelona. Scored a really important goal against Barcelona in the Europa League.
That's the winning goal. Yeah, because Fred scored the equaliser, I remember now.
Yeah. So we've all forgotten it.
Yeah. The weird thing is he comes up in big moments, like he did against Liverpool, did it against Barcelona, scored the winner against Arsenal. He does come up with big moments. It's just another one of those where I think his off the field issues this year have affected him a lot more than we'd probably like to admit or hope. It just seems to be a problem at the club at the minute. Every player seems to have off the field issues, and it's affecting their on the field performance. But there's definitely a player in there. Is there an £80 million player in there? Probably not, but maybe 45, 40. We can haggle a bit down. I'm hoping they take the game to Brentford, like try and control it, get on the front foot.
Yeah,
we're good enough to beat them, and I just want to see them link up a little bit better, because there's still been times over the last few weeks where even against Liverpool, they was picking frustrating options where there was easier passes and stuff like that. Do you know who's fallen under the radar? Who'll probably get a start tomorrow? McTominay. I'm not seeing anybody say it.
well, very interesting that you just mentioned that, because I've got a little double stack question game for you all. So here we go. Get your thinking caps ready, because Scott McTominay is 1 goal away from becoming the first Scotsman since who to score double figures in one league season?
Gordon Strachan.
No. It's Brian McClare.
Brian McClare, 1991, 1992. Chocky, who I've modelled my beard on, because my goodness, he has, his beard is glorious. It's absolutely unbelievable. So there we go. Yes, Brian McClare. And my second little stat pack question for you is this: Rasmus Højlund has scored in 6 consecutive matches. The first Manchester United player to do so since who?
Ruud van Nistelrooy.
Ruud van Nistelrooy. Nice shout, but no.
Ronaldo? Or
Who?
Cristiano?
Do you say Cristiano or Bruno?
No, Cristiano.
Cristiano would be right. Absolutely. So Andrew Wall has either read the same BBC stats pack that I did, or he's just incredibly clever, that man. We'll never know. We'll never know. Or maybe it's the vodka, the water that he's drinking. Who knows? But there we go. So, yes, indeed. I think we've pretty much exhausted Brentford discussion for one evening. If I'm brutally honest, I'm not convinced there's a huge amount more. This is where having the opposition fan in really can help, because they can give us a little bit more to go along with. So I think, lads, we've hit the point where it would make sense to ask what we think the score is going to be tomorrow at 8. Andrew, what say you?
I'm just thinking hopefully it's not like last season, but I think it's going to be a tight game, and I just think I'm going to go the classic 2-1. I mean, Brentford's defence is severely limited as well, but I think with our attacking options, I just think we hopefully can carry on where we left off from 2 weeks ago. So, yeah, 2-1.
2-1 for Andrew Wall. Dan, you said there's going to be a lot of goals, but that it's going to be close. So what have you gone for in the end? 10-9?
I'm going to say 3-2. I think it's just, honestly, I think it's going to be a madness. I think it's going to be one of them games where there's just goals and it's a bit mental.
Last minute winning goal as well.
No, I can't cope with that, honestly. Just if we could be 3-2 up in the 70th minute and it finishes, that'd be great.
Well, if next weekend's game against Liverpool is half as good as the FA Cup game, we're in for a treat as well. So, but
my heart can't go with this anymore.
No, I couldn't in the ground either. So if next weekend's anything we'll see what happens tomorrow first.
Well, apparently, Andrew, purchasing Man United wallpaper, curtains, and duvet covers is all you need for knowledge, apparently. So there you go. It's nothing to do with the season ticket or going to watch them for loads of years. It's all about your upholstery, mate. So there you go. Good job. I suppose my last little question moves away from Brentford as such, and more about the kickoff times. We know there's going to be some restructuring potentially around when games are going to be on and all of those sorts of things as the years go by. How do we feel about 8 o'clock on a Saturday evening as a kickoff time, Andrew?
So it's been I think how many seasons now? The 8 o'clock kickoff's been around. It's been a good 4 or 5. So I think how many have I done? I'm trying to think. In the last few seasons, I've probably done 2 or 3 of them. But yeah, it's not. Let's say fans of at the behest of TV companies, we want these fixtures on these dates and these times. I'm just thinking, as much as we complain, TV, will do what they want, and the Premier League will will agree. So I know during like COVID times, I said, "Oh, the fans are the most important thing." Well, it seems to be in loss since we've all got back in a little bit, and I'm just like, do you really care about us? I was like reading something earlier today about, football clubs and season ticket holders. Like, it feels like, clubs are trying to get rid of season ticket holders because obviously if people going game by game, you can charge a lot more. So I'm just thinking, it's one of those. I'm just thinking it's an amalgamation things, kickoff times, season ticket prices. We say it just all feels like it's going in the wrong way. We're just at the mercy. And it's just like, and like we say, getting to and from games. I'm fortunate enough I can drive to games, but there's people that rely on public transport. Train strikes as well. I'm just like, I think next weekend's train strikes. So it's like people are wanting to get to games. You've either got to source your own transport or supporter coaches that are going to and from games. So let's say, as much as we complain, we get to the games and we'll be supporting our teams across the country. So, but it's a long standing issue that's been talked about for years. But will anything change? I don't see it. But what do we change? Yeah.
I suppose being on a Saturday is better than it being on a Friday or a Sunday. It makes it a bit easier to get to and from, I suppose. And Dave saying here, if you cut Andrew in half, he would read Man United like a stick of rock. I disagree. I think if you cut Andrew in half, you're probably going to be doing 25 years in strange ways. So let's not try that at home. Danfield, 8 o'clock kickoffs on a Saturday. Do you care?
I'm going to sound really, really old now. It's too late. It all finishes too late. I've got to be up at 5 a.m. Can they not do it at 7? You know what I mean? Just make it a little bit earlier for me. It annoys me because of the fans that go. To be honest, one of my friends goes, and I think with the ballot and stuff for the away games, and with the cost of season tickets going up and everything else, travel, it just feels like that it's the match goers that are getting shafted constantly. And I mean, I'm in the comfort of the pub or my house, or do you know what I mean, with my feet up. I've not spent an absolute fortune to get there. It's just a difficult conversation, this, because I have this discussion with my brother all the time about Liverpool. Liverpool have been royally shafted with these 12:30 kickoffs. I think they've had like double the amount of anybody else. Like the closest is Spurs on like 4 and Liverpool are on 11. And I genuinely think it's costing English teams later in competitions because of these TV issues. In Spain, I can remember we played, was it Villarreal or Sevilla, and we lost. We were lost anyway. And the La Liga re-fixtured the game, so they had more time off before the final. The Premier League wouldn't even think of doing that, or TV company wouldn't even think of doing that for an English side. So I think there's like a longer reach to it, as well as not just the fans at the stadium, but I think it makes English teams suffer in the long run when they're trying to go for 3-4 trophies, because the fixture list does this, and there's no proper solution. So there's a lady on TV moaning about this, or on Talk Sport or something like that, and she was saying that this fixture's like penciled in the diary by the FA, that if Man City get past Real Madrid, that game will move to a Sunday, and the Sunday's games will then move to the Saturday. But they could just pencil him in the opposite way around now to save any confusion, but they won't, because the prime time TV for them is on the Saturday, not the Sunday. So that's when they want it. Unless the fixture list don't allow that, then they'd have to swap it. And it very much feels like it's more towards TV.
But is there a point that's
more
fair
expensive?
to make, that if they're going to throw in the millions and billions of pounds in that they do into the product, that they should have a right to ensure that the games are on at times when they are going to get peak viewership potentially? Is that it's a devil's advocate way of looking at it?
Yeah, it'd be a fantastic point as well if you couldn't watch the 3 p.m. blackout kickoffs for €4 a year by signing up to some Indian website. Just does that make sense? So like, I get it, but they've still got to think about the match goer. And like I've seen that people might get stranded in London now after the kickoff because of the travel. That's mad. That seems madness to me.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know what time the last train would be out. Well, from Brentford out for those.
Again, the thing with that is, was that strike? Did they know about that when they?
I don't think that's a strike this weekend, is it? I think that's just literally like the last train. So because it's an 8 o'clock kickoff, by the time it finishes, the last train might have gone before everybody's out into the train station, etc. So if that's what they're going to do, if they want a later kickoff on a Saturday, why can't they do it at 7, 6:30 to make sure that this travel is there for the match going?
Then does this work in all walks of life? Do you sit there and say the same thing about the Champions League? Why is it on a Tuesday and a Wednesday? I've got to go training on a Tuesday. Why is it why can't they put it on Thursday? Ultimately, is this not just a case of that it is that none of us are going to have those perfect lives where it's just Monday to Friday, 9 till 5 all the time, and that actually, you're never going to please everybody.
Yeah, well, I still think they could do a little bit more to help those that are match goers, not just, do you know what I mean? Like, it's very, it frustrates me because they say the reason that the 3 p.m.s aren't on TV is because the stadium attendances will drop, but then they want to put a match at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night. Because I tell you, like, most people would prefer to stay at home in the living room with a hot coffee or a beer than go to a cold stadium in London and may not get home from it that night because they've got to worry about travel.
Again, without wanting to be that person, throwing it out there for them, isn't it for the lower leagues that
the non-league
ones? So it's not about will we fill United Stadium, because we're not the Etihad. We're going to feel that whether it's on at midnight.
Yeah, well, that makes zero sense because
well, no, it doesn't, because it does make sense because you think about it. I mean, I look at Stevenage, my local side. The vast majority of people that go there are not necessarily Stevenage fans first and foremost. They were Arsenal or they were Spurs. And if Arsenal or Spurs are on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and they can watch it on the telly, there isn't. I look at it that way. If it was Man United on the telly at 3, would I rather watch Man United or would I go to my local ground and watch Stevenage? Well, I'd probably watch Man United.
Yeah, but this is what I mean about 3 p.m. kicks. They haven't technically. I'd imagine they would do it the same as they do an early kickoff. Or it would just be a selected match, not every match. So why couldn't they put a 3 p.m. kickoff on a Saturday from the Championship on? Just a random one. It's not necessarily got to be all the 3 p.m.s. Just like an extra TV coverage, if that makes sense. So it's not. I'm not saying put all the 3 p.m.s on telly because I get that would affect the attendances, but just stick a game on TV at 3 p.m. That's. They had, was it Stags on today? I bet that got watched by quite a few people against Wrexham. So, and that was 3 p.m. on a Friday. I guess it's not a Saturday, but it's okay to, and that's confusing. It's okay to do it on a Friday at 3 o'clock, but they can't do it on a Saturday at 3 o'clock. I don't see the difference.
Well, let's take a look at the Saturday 3 o'clock games tomorrow then. So if you were picking a random one, you could choose Bournemouth against Everton, Chelsea against Burnley, Forest against Palace, Sheffield United against Fulham, and Spurs against Luton, which are the 3 o'clock games. Now we're in a situation where more games are being played. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's 8 games being played on the Saturday, which isn't always the case. There's sometimes 6 or 7. Due to the fact there's a few on the Sunday and then potentially one on the Monday as well. I'm the opposite. I just want the Game Pass. I want to be able to watch every Manchester United game. I don't want to be. I hate the fact I have to sign up to Sky or to Now TV or to BT Sports. You have to, or to TNT as it is now. What a dynamite station that is. So you have to go onto these things and purchase all of these things, and it's again only to watch things like TNT would only be for Europe. So that's the main thing, but you get the occasional game. Amazon Prime's another one. You're going to get maybe 1 or 2 games a season on that one. And again, you don't even get to see all of the games. So you end up paying, I think we had this discussion before when we were talking about Andrew Wall and his season ticket. You think about how much you're paying per month. You're probably paying enough for a season ticket but actually you're watching maybe a quarter of all of the games that are actually available to watch, because you have to try and find other ways. And this is why you end up with this illegal streaming. You're talking about, people going onto X and finding streams and doing those sorts of things. And I don't know. I think that if you offered a Game Pass for fans to be able to say, do you know what, I'm going to subscribe to this and have that so that I can watch the games as they go live, it's got to be the future. I can't think why they're not doing it, other than the fact that obviously Sky would then immediately lose out, as would BT, and all of a sudden the money would be out of the game. That's the only reason. But the money would be going directly to the clubs.
But on that point, as the Premier League, they bargain the TV rights as a collective. All 20 clubs bargain so that each get the same amount of money. Because say there's Game Pass and you just wanted to watch United, well, a lot more people are going to sign up to watch Man United rather than, I don't know, Burnley. So Burnley will say, well, we're not going to get that money. So that's why the TV rights are done as a collective. So it's to help those teams in the lower part of the Premier League as well. So I know we've had this, with the kickoff times as well, even on the women's side, it's like 6:45 on a Sunday as well. It's like, and I know from like next season, they might be doing Friday at 8 as well. So I just think with like tomorrow night, I'll be at Brentford and then I'll get back and then I'm at the women's game on Sunday as well. And that's a nice early start. So plus the clock's going forward. So
this is what I mean.
Well,
with the women's
is that this weekend?
As big as it is now, and the opportunity to go and watch those, I want to watch the Man United games. I'm not going to go to Stevenage or Hitchin or any of the surrounding areas to go and watch the men's team play, because why would I want to? We're talking about the money I'm pushing into things like Now TV and other things like that. Why would I then want to go and spend 20 quid to go and watch my League One side? I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to see Stevenage do well and I'd like to see them get promoted and all of those sorts of things. But am I going to spend £20 a home game to go and watch them? No, I'm not, because my feelings for Stevenage are very different to what they were a long time ago when I worked for them. It's just my local team. My club that I support is Manchester United. That's the one I want to watch. And I just don't know that this football fan exists now that he's really going off and doing that and caring as much about United, for example, as they would be. So I just don't get it. Oh, hello, what's this? A Burnley fan ain't going to sign up to watch Man United matches rather than Burnley. Well, exactly. They're not. But that's the whole point.
But Burnley's club would argue as well. They say the distribution of money, say it was all done on an individual basis. It would get a lot more than Burnley would. So it's say that's.
I mean, you look at the lower levels. Like, you have the opportunity. Stevenage have got a website, so all of the Football League ones have got this, where they can pay a Game Pass to watch these matches. So my argument is, if I can do that for Stevenage, why can't I do that for Man United? It's absolutely crazy. And the answer is because nobody's sticking billions of pounds into the EFL.
I think United have. I'm trying to remember from Ed Woodward's time in charge, and I think they saw United would have liked that. They wanted, they'd rather have the games on their TV channel, but obviously they signed up to the agreement with the Premier League. They all bargain as 20 clubs bargain as one. So, but United they definitely would go down that route if they could, but legally they can't.
No, but again, perhaps the other option is that a TV company is given the rights, or a couple of TV companies. They're all pulled in together and they've got to go and record all of the games and put them on live, and the money goes to them. And a certain amount is paid out to the clubs, throughout the pyramid. I mean, I don't really care, but there's got to be a better way. Like, we are in a situation now. Can you remember Netflix, how that first started? Were you alive when Netflix first started, Andrew Wall, or were you still, have you always been a gamer boy? Do you remember it?
I wasn't even a gamer boy, so...
Netflix was love film, effectively.
Yes.
So
to post your DVDs.
Yes.
Netflix, you used to order a DVD that would come through your door, so you could watch it, and then you'd have to send it back. Bit like Blockbuster.
Yeah, online version of Blockbuster.
Yeah, and now you look at it now, and all you've got to do is just go, oh, there you go. You can sign up for and be watching immediately on Netflix. The world that we are in now is pathetic, that we have to sit there and have, like, people keep going about Soccer Saturday. Oh my goodness, it's not the same. Jeff Stelling's not there anymore. We've got to have a woman on there. There's black people, there's Asian people. Why can't I just have Graham Souness and Paul Merson and bring back Matt Letizia and his full metal hat? Why can't I have all these people? Where are they gone? Why got to listen to these people? You could get rid of it by just giving them the Game Pass. Just give them the Game Pass. Like, that's what we want. Surely. I mean, you're a season ticket holder, but Dan, if you had that opportunity, would you pay for it?
No,
you wouldn't.
If let's be honest, in 2024, if you wanted to name a game, and you said I want to watch this game, there is a way of watching that game for free. You don't have to.
But let's be honest, that shouldn't exist either.
No, it shouldn't, and that only exists because
the fact that you can go to Spain and watch them.
Yeah,
you can't do it whilst you're in Stoke. That's the problem.
You can.
If you eradicated that.
Yeah. If you got, but that's the problem, and I think Andy's right in what he's saying about the season ticket as well. They're trying to, you priced out of watching it on the TV, from the ages of say 8 to 18. If your mum and dad don't pay for it, you're not watching it. So if you're watching it, you're probably watching it illegally at that age. So that cuts off a chunk of an age group there. And then the same with the season ticket holders. People are starting to get priced out because they know they can get more money for their seat if they can get them to give it up because of the season ticket. It's basically, it's all right. It's all about money. Money. What's going to bring in the most money? Well, I think obviously the pass would work. I think the issue would be Man United would make billions from fans around the world, and Luton Town would only make X amount of hundreds or thousands from people local to them. And what you might find is teams like, well, I'll use Mansfield because that's sort of near me. They would probably find an increase in matchday pass on the telly, but then a decrease in attendance at the stadium. And that wouldn't be the case for your bigger clubs. Liverpool's attendance wouldn't drop. Man United wouldn't drop. Arsenal wouldn't drop.
I mean, I think
cities would drop.
There has to be a way.
Cities can't drop anymore.
I don't know. Perhaps you can. There's got to be a better way. Even if it's a subscription model of, you sign up to it and you can pick one game, per game day that you could watch. So then Man United Luton is going to have loads of it, and then they split that money. So there has to be, listen, I'm not paid enough to be dealing with this problem, but the simple fact is there's too much money in football, and as a result, that's what's causing the drama. You're talking about too much money. That's why we end up paying ridiculous money for players like Anthony. That's why we end up paying ridiculous wages for people like Alexis Sanchez, and that's the reason why the Glazers wanted our football club at all. And we're never going to be able to just explode the game of football and start again. So as long as we keep just allowing these television companies to put the money in and have the money that we have available in the game, it's never going to work. So if we've got to have a bit of time thinking about the fans, there's got to be a better way to do it. There has to be a better way rather than like the BBC used to have so many rights, but you can barely watch the FA Cup nowadays. You only get to see certain things there. So whilst there is football around, for me, it's just a nightmare. I hate the fact that you can't just watch a United game. It's mad. It's mad. And let's be honest, we are on there more than most other teams.
I was thinking over the course of the season, we're probably on more than any. I'm just trying to probably say Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, probably with most on their TVs. Besides I'm just trying to think how many 3 o'clock Saturdays we had this season. It's about
not many.
Four or five, but the rest of the time we've probably been on TV. So majority of games you can watch on Sky, TNT, or any other platform as well. So, but yeah,
it would have to be. If you didn't have your top 6 on more often than not, it would buy it because, like you just said, people aren't going to be paying money to just watch Luton against Nottingham Forest.
Well, I've watched other Premier League. Well, I've got Sky and TNT, so I've watched the other Premier League, and some of those have been like entertaining games, and seeing how other
Which
teams
is the thing about football, though. You don't know it's going to be an entertaining game until you watch it. Like, I look at a game and I go, I ain't watching that. And then I look at Sky Sports afterwards to see what the score is. I'm like, oh, 4-3, should I watch that? It's too late. But then when you do go and watch it, you're like, 0-0, 75 minutes. Why have I wasted my life doing this? So,
obviously Villa Wolves are before us tomorrow, and I'm just, even though I'll be travelling down, I'll be listening on the radio. I'm thinking, wanting Wolves to win because it helps us out in the end. But if I wasn't Brentford tomorrow, I'll be watching the Villa Wolves game as well with a keen interest, because Villa don't do well, then that helps United out. So,
and it's a money issue as well, because even Prime are losing the rights to the Premier League, and then the amount of money they've got, that's madness.
But he was always a loss leader for them. He was always a loss leader, because they make them money. Amazon make their money in other ways. So just getting the Premier League rights, I don't think that was necessarily going to make them profit. I always thought that was a loss leader.
When a man's using his pocket change to go to space, he's got more than enough money.
Is they were losing money from that. Of course they were. But then these people were also then Amazon Prime customers. So because they were Amazon Prime customers, you can guarantee that they were buying some stuff from Amazon at the same time. So although the football might have lost them some money, they're not short of a few quid when it comes to, Amazon as a whole. So I don't know. I think it's very, very interesting. And yes, you're right. There's lots of things to take into consideration, but I just think, again, the argument about match-going fans just doesn't fly for me. At the end of the day, would you rather watch a match live and in person or on the TV? And the answer is live and in person.
I think it takes a special kind of... Sorry? Take a special kind of crazy person to want to go and watch football, actually in a stadium, because 90% of the time it's absolutely freezing. 100% of the time it costs a fortune. The travel in itself for most people is crazy. It's more than what most people do in a month for one match day. So I think I've got a lot of respect. Yeah, I've got a lot of respect for it. But it's madness. Like, if you say to me, do you want to go to a game for the atmosphere, etc.? The times I've gone to games, I've sat here thinking, it's cold. Like, I should have brought a bigger coat. There's nobody telling me what's happening. So, and obviously I can see it on the pitch. It's just not the same. I prefer all the stats and the commentary and the being able to surf Twitter and wind people up. So I've got, like I say, credit to match-going fans, but they're a special kind of crazy.
No, I think you're the special kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was thinking to him, like Liverpool game. Would you rather watch it on TV or be there in the stadium?
But that's like I'm talking about. You do this every single week. Yeah, before you know that's going to happen. Like, obviously, would I love to be there for the Ahmad goal? Oh, hell yeah! But we don't want to sit there for 90 minutes and watch us lose 7-0 to Liverpool at Anfield. Absolutely not.
Well, the 5-0.
That's the whole point of being a football fan.
I'd sat through that.
Yeah, but I prefer to sit and suffer in the pub or watching TV at a friend. Do you know what I mean? Just
mental, Dan. That's actually mental.
No, I prefer that sort of thing than being there and it just. It's not for everybody, if that makes sense.
That's blown my mind. Do you know what? I've changed my mind. The football should never be available on the TV. Complete blackout of football, nothing left. Radio's the best.
It is. Dave's spot on. It's absolute dedication, is what it is. Because the amount of time that people give up to do it is madness. It's absolute madness. I can't imagine working all week to then travel 3 hours to get to Manchester, to sit in the cold for 90 minutes, to then travel 3 hours back and have to go to work again the next morning.
Yeah, that's me.
Can't imagine it.
And then there's having men's season ticket, but women's as well. So Saturdays and Sundays, I'm watching football both days, and then next week, because I've got away at Chelsea as well. So got half a day off from work, so I'll be literally straight down to London and back, and then in work on Friday. So then doing it all again on Sunday for Liverpool. So when the season's over, I'm happy for the rest and not to be travelling. And then about 3 or 4 weeks after the season's ended, I'm a bit bored now. I'm just like, my weekends and got nothing really much to do, and I'm like, bring back the football.
I mean, I'd love to
stadiums.
I'd love to do it, but to consistently have to do it, if you're doing home and away, 38 games a season, plus cup games, plus Champions League games, or
you can't do that if you're a Man United fan. It's not possible.
Well, you have to win the ballot, don't you? So you
exactly. You've been travelling for the last 2,500 years.
But
it's who you know to get a ticket.
But how many games have you been to this season, Andy?
Yeah, just United. Hang on. So far, hang on. I'll count this up because we haven't reached all the end of the home games. So this will be hang on, because Chelsea next week, that'll be my 3rd away game this season because I did Sheffield United and I've done 14 of the 19 home games. So this will be my 15th? Yeah, 15th Premier League game.
And that's just at Old Trafford?
So just Premier League games I've done 14 plus we have the cup game, so Palace at home, and then Newcastle, so that was 16, and Liverpool, so 17 so far.
So yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine going up to watch Fulham and going to Old Trafford, watching the Fulham game, coming back. But I can't imagine doing it for it. It takes a lot of hours in the day to do what they do.
I mean,
it's credit for me.
Well, like sometimes when I've gone from work, so like Sheffield United game, that's going to be because that was moved to midweek because of the FA Cup, wasn't it? So literally on that day, I'll be up from about 7:30, and I won't go to work, and then United, and I won't be back till about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I've been up for a good 14, 15 hours, and then back in work the next day.
And this is what, when I was talking earlier, Barry, and saying that I feel like they should be able to do more for the match goers. This is why it should be more important for the match goers' experience in terms of even though it's on TV.
He's never going to care about that.
But they should.
Never going to care about that.
But they
That's
should.
the whole point.
Yeah.
This is why I say go to a streaming service. If we go to a streaming service, doesn't matter what time we put it on. Doesn't matter what time. You haven't got to sit there and go, let's get everyone around the telly at 7:30 at night.
Yeah, it still matters to the match goers.
Sorry?
It will still matter to the people that go to the games.
No, it wouldn't. That's my whole point. If you put it on a streaming service, you just put it on at the same time. It don't matter. A Man United fan is only going to sign up to watch Man United. They're not really sitting there going, oh, God, I was really looking forward to watching Accrington Stanley against Brentford, or Accrington Stanley against bloody... What am I trying to think of?
No. What I mean is, if take the Brentford game, for example, even if with a streaming service, it was at 8 o'clock, it still makes life difficult for Andy.
It doesn't need to be at 8 o'clock. If it's a streaming service, why would you put it at 8 o'clock? You wouldn't. So now you can actually sit there and go, what's a sensible time to put that on? Manchester United have got to travel all the way down to London. Let's not put it on at 8 o'clock for the poor sods. Let's have it on at 3. You actually put it back to the club so they can sit there and go, what's the right thing to do? As opposed to go, no, we're going to put it on 8 o'clock because, we've got Real Madrid against Barcelona before that. So that's really important. You don't got to worry about that. Streaming service.
As long as it makes it easy for the match goer, I'd be quite happy with that, to be fair. I just think with stuff like Brentford on Saturday, it's Easter weekend as well, and it's the late kickoff. They've not done the match goer any favours whatsoever.
No.
And they should have.
But like I say, a streaming service would fix that, because then they could go, you could have City and United on at the same day if you really wanted to, because you could just go one a bit earlier, one a bit later. Give it a couple of hours in between. Not a problem. You actually get the chance to manage these things properly rather than putting them on at ridiculous times. And I'll tell you what else it'd be good for, is not putting the Man United men on at the same time as the Man United women, so that people that want to do both actually could.
Which would also help, Andy.
Genuinely, it's just, It's just a sensible thing to do, but they won't do it because Sky and all these other TV companies are the people that pump the money into the game.
It's like in a couple of weeks' time, the semi-final against Coventry. The women are playing at home that day, but obviously I know where I'm going to be because I got a ticket to Wembley. So it's like last season, the League Cup final. The women are playing at home in the FA Cup against Durham. So, but it was the League Cup final, and I'm just, I know where I was going to be, but I was keeping my eye on the women's team as well, keeping an eye on how they were doing. So it's not, even though I was watching the men's team, I was like still there, had my one eye on.
I mean, you
women's
shouldn't
as
have
well.
to choose. We know that Andrew has gone to women's games to watch a half, 60 minutes before then travelling to Old Trafford to go and watch the men, and you shouldn't have to choose. So it's absolute madness. But it's not something we're going to fix tonight, so we won't worry about it too much. We will be back on Sunday in order to have another little chat all about what happened at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening in London as Brentford take on Manchester United. I say we. Dan is going to be facing a HR meeting immediately after this, and we'll see. We'll see whether he makes it back on Sunday or not after that absolute outrageous rant there about match-going fans and rather watching it on the telly. As we've got here, Plastic Dan, the telly man.
Love it.
So,
well, the pub man, but yeah.
We shall see. But listen, I've really enjoyed it. Andrew, you could have left the vodka till later, but never mind. We're literally just about to finish. So thank you all for sticking with us. Thank you again in the comments for keeping us going through the evening. And we hope you have a lovely Easter weekend, a nice and restful one. Enjoy the game tomorrow, wherever you're watching it. And we'll see you on Sunday. Night all.
Yeah. You ended it yet?
You end the stream because it's not ending.
Hello.